For the first time ever, I am thrilled to say we have an official sponsor for the Dirt Talk podcast, and that's Ariat. I've worn Ariat boots on every job site I've visited over the years, traveling in them across 5 continents. More importantly, I have yet to find a single project where working folks, unlike me, are not wearing Ariat boots and workwear in every condition imaginable. And there's really good reason for that, and that's because it's phenomenal stuff. And the more I've learned about Ariat and the company, the more I've loved their brand. So with this, Ariat is offering any Dirt Talk listener 10% off their next Ariat order at ariat.com/dirttalk. That's 10% off boots, jeans, and workwear at ariat.com/dirttalk or at the link in this episode's description. With that, let's get to the show. I have a lot of sugar, but it's honey typically.
Yeah, that's natural honey.
Fruit,
not natural sugar.
Yeah, because I'm super active.
Yep.
Like when I'm really training this summer, it was probably at least 5-6 hours of training a weekend.
Yeah,
and so you just I'll just eat honey by the tablespoon.
But you also need the calories.
Yeah. But it's and the natural sugar is so good because it just goes right into you.
Goes right to you.
Yeah. Or I'll have dried fruit too.
Yeah.
That's what I use when I race typically.
Yeah.
Because anything else like the goos and such, they just fuck me up.
I almost want to vomit.
It just destroys your insides.
I used one of those packs last year for the first time when I did the Newport half marathon.
Yeah.
I was 9 miles in and I could feel I needed energy.
Yeah.
So I took one of them. It did help me, but it tasted so bad.
Yeah, I can't do it.
It's not like when you go buy one, it's not like hey, try this first.
No. Well, and the problem with the longer races too is I've gotten into some of the longer ones, and when you're going for quite a while, if you lose your stomach, it's gone. You don't get it back. Yeah. So I've tried to be.
You just want to vomit the whole time, especially if you're drinking water,
or you just start shitting yourself. Like a friend of mine. It was a 100-mile race.
That's a long race. Dude.
He starts shitting himself like mile 5. And so every few miles he has to take a dump.
Yeah.
And we're just in the woods.
Yeah.
So you're out in the woods taking like every few miles.
Dude, that's brutal.
He finished the race. My knee got jacked up, so I stopped at like 60 something miles.
Dude, that's a long way.
It was a long day, but he
long day, long way, man.
He did it. He completed it with a jacked up stomach. But he ate something that didn't agree with him.
I could do the 100 miles, especially in a day.
It's a long day.
Average person, 26 is 8 hours.
Yeah. Is it really? Is that average?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Walking or running?
Power walking.
Yeah, I was gonna say because running must be like 5 to 6.
I did the Boston Marathon Tough Ruck.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it though? How long is that?
Same, 26.2 miles with 35 pounds.
Really?
Yeah.
And is it when they're running the Boston Marathon?
No, they did it in 21. It was the first time, only time ever because COVID stuff, right? So they offered it.
Okay.
I did it with a friend of mine. It was virtual. You can do it anywhere, but you had to submit the info to
so
verify.
It's like a virtual race.
Yeah, so you had to send I did mine with my Apple Watch.
I see.
That showed your route and showed the time and stuff.
See. Okay.
But I did mine in 7 hours.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, that's a long day.
Yeah, with 35 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be gassed after that.
Yeah, I mean, I was hauling.
The Boston Marathon now, it is crazy how many people submit for it.
Yeah.
Like
they don't allow qualifying to do it now.
Qualifying doesn't get you, because I got super lucky. I did it. I qualified in 2021 during the whole COVID thing.
Yeah.
And so anybody that qualified got in, which is awesome. Qualifying, just getting a qualifying time is probably the most difficult thing I've done.
You got to run other ones to get it. You have to prove it.
Yeah, you have to hit a pretty aggressive marathon time. And I just barely got it, so then I got in. But now, if I were to go they just reduced, in my age group, they reduced it from 3 hours to 2 hours and 50 minutes, which is
that's
under 6:30 a mile, I think it
hard.
is. for 26 points for a marathon. Like to sustain that pace is pretty gnarly.
That wasn't happening yesterday at the Marine Corps Marathon.
No, but you can get that and still not get in.
Yeah.
Them say, sorry. Yeah, there's that many people doing it.
Because they feel bad for us old guys and let us do it.
Well, so there's other ways to get in. Yeah. And so if I want to do the New York City Marathon and Chicago Marathon, but you can do the charity route.
My friend Tim Irving, he's the director of OSHA, just did the Chicago. He said he'll never do it again.
Really?
He said it wasn't a race; it was logistics.
Oh, well, that's how Boston.
It was horrible.
It's so the race is the easy part.
Yeah, he was
all
like getting
the
there,
logistics.
Not enough bathroom. He goes, there was people peeing in front of others just because. Yeah, that's bad.
Well, yeah, but when you're, because the porta potties, there'll be like 50 people waiting
for one
porta potty. It's so crazy.
You're like trying to get the time.
Yeah. And you when you're starting a race, you want to be hydrated, but then you're like, I don't want to drink too much because then I'm going to be waiting for the damn porta potty.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. Anyway, we can bullshit about this all day long. Were you in the military?
Marine Corps.
You were in the Marine Corps?
Yep.
Did you go out of high school or college?
Right out of high school.
Right out of high school. Why?
That was my exit plan.
Was that always the plan, or did it just kind of come up?
No, I really wasn't into academics at the time. It wasn't something. I started working construction when I was 12.
Wow.
I was very fortunate that there was a guy local that mentored me. He's like my second father still to this day. He was a minister, but also in a construction company. And we went to church together, and I drove him nuts. Like, I want a job. I want to come work for you. Finally, one day he stopped by, picked me up on a Saturday. Said, hey, I want you to come clean up these job sites for me. I was 12. And that's where it started, like $2 an hour. And he bought my lunch like at Taco Bell. And I started doing that on Saturdays. And he taught me a lot about construction that way.
What kind of construction was it?
Residential and commercial, like
buildings.
Yeah, buildings, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Why?
He was his own. He was a very small company. He had 7 kids, so he's like, I need work to pay bills, which is like everyone in the world, right? And he's just a really great guy, and took me under his wing. And next thing you know, like I'm almost like I'm integrated into. I'm the 8th kid of the family, because. And then he had another one, so then I was number 9. So like, it's just a great guy. But that's how I learned and got into construction, and I knew that was, I just wasn't meant for school at the time. That was my mentality. So my dad's like, well, it's a good option. Join the Marines. So that's what I did. And then when I came back, the first thing I wanted to do is I needed a job. The mindset. That's how I was raised, and got into construction.
Yeah, because that's all you knew.
That's all I knew.
How long were you in the Marines for?
Almost 3.5 years.
Okay, so just enough to get it. And
I got disciplined.
Yeah. I guess I
got the regiment, the discipline, which I needed, man. To be honest, at that time, like I was just a dumb young guy, and I was grateful because I learned a lot.
Yeah.
It made me, I still live the same way. I mean, look at my haircut, right? So, I was grateful. I did my bit, and then came and it helped me be kind of above the norm, for most of the people I was working with, because they weren't as disciplined.
I feel like you can kind of tell the people that have been in the Marines.
Yeah, we have a different mindset.
There's a different feel in a way to the Marine guys.
Very regimented.
Yeah.
It's not that I would say it's not that we are the mindset that we're above others or anything like that. It's
I've never got
we're more
that.
Humble.
Yeah.
I feel like we're very direct, but we appreciate more.
Yeah.
Like, because we lived pretty tough scenarios.
Yeah, but there's like there's a humility because you're the grunts of military, and they're not shy. Yeah, they're not shy about telling you that when you sign up.
From the moment you arrive,
you know exactly what you're signing up for. Yeah. And Yeah, there's this discipline to the former Marine guys that I've been around that you like. I feel like you can almost pick them out in a way because they have this different
We can spot each other a lot of times. You're
I'm
walking
sure.
in the airport, you're like, okay, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah. Dan was a former Marine.
Yeah,
He talks
same.
about it quite a bit.
we all still wear watches,
Uh-huh.
belts.
Yeah.
Like my shirt's not untucked today.
Yeah.
It's untucked today, but I'm taking it easy after yesterday. And
His
normally-
hair short
yeah.
too. Uh-huh.
they usually tuck our shirts in. It's how we're wired.
I think that discipline is good, especially when you're developing as a kid.
Agreed.
I think high school is important, but I think the years following high school, and this is where I'm pro higher education in a way, or military or whatever, but I think it's hard for people to just go right into the workforce at 18.
I think when you find those people who go right into the workforce at 18, it's because they don't really know what they want to do.
Yeah.
Or my friend told me this would be a good opportunity, or haven't really made that decision.
Uh-huh.
And I find that sometimes people get stuck.
You get stuck. Yes.
Yeah,
And I
'cause, like,
understand.
This is the only thing I know.
Like there's a lot of people that have to do that. Understood.
Yeah.
Yes. Get it.
Some
But
people don't have any options.
no, but a lot of people don't have to. And yeah, you run the risk of getting stuck because at 18, you don't know who you are.
Yeah.
You start to go down this path. You start to make more money. That's it. You get trained up in one thing, you get one skill set, and you're there. Whereas the military and there's pros and cons to either, all different, there's no right or wrong way. Military or college or something like that gives you a few years to just somewhat figure out, all right, who am I? What am I good at?
Important.
What am I not good at?
Yeah.
Because if you get that in high school, good for you. Great job.
Yeah.
Most people don't get that in high school.
There's only 1 in 50 natural leaders in the world.
Uh-huh.
Like 1 in 50.
Yeah.
I mean, so 49 of us
have no
gotta
idea.
figure it out, man.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it's not like no matter where you go to high school, no matter the quality of the education, quote unquote, you're not really getting developed as an individual.
Most people get stuck, man. Like I've done a lot of research on leadership. That's my passion since, going through my process in 2020, we call it shadow work. It led me to higher education.
Mm-hmm.
And, only 15% of the U.S. workforce has ever received leadership training focused on human behavior.
Mm.
And I found that really highlighted of importance because it really makes you think of the people side of things, like your journey, right? So my journey, I got into construction after I got back from the Marine Corps.
Uh-huh.
And it went from I was going to be an iron worker, then it transitioned into safety. I didn't pick my profession. It chose me. But like most people, they get a job, then they have a wife and daughter or vice versa, whatever.
Yep.
Then the family comes.
Yep.
And then they get stuck. And I say stuck, and I don't mean in a bad way. It's just they get into this situation like, hey, this is my job. I can't choose an alternate plan or an alternate. Some can, but it's very limited.
Sure.
I can't choose another path for a career because I have dependents now.
Yeah. I have a mortgage.
I have a daughter. I have whatever it might be. And then you find themselves either happy or unhappy, like 100-hour work weeks.
Yeah.
Like that becomes what's the norm now, right? So
yeah.
So as you get into that realm, like being stuck, you'd be surprised like how many people will tell you straight out, like, I never thought of it that way, but I'm stuck.
I think a majority of people are stuck, honestly. The interesting thing about Marines, going back to that, is they're the only branch of the U.S. military that's not missing their recruiting goals.
Yeah, it's for one, I think it's because they do a great job of defining the difference.
Uh-huh.
You also earn that title,
a
Marine.
Yeah.
That you never lose. When you die and your funeral, you still are just, that's, like when someone dies in the United States of America, every U.S. Marine dies in a car wreck, correct? Because it's a title is held high. It's 13 weeks of your life of ups and downs, like being treated like the worst dirt or worse than sewage, and you're built to be a killing machine, right? And you never lose that. Where I don't know that the other branches do a good enough job of glorifying becoming a member.
Well, I think also it's the danger of trying to be something for everybody. The Marines haven't fallen into that.
I agree.
They've said,
we're our own.
This is what we are.
Yep.
It's not a good time. It's not for everybody.
Yep.
But if you think it's for you, if you think you're tough enough, come on down.
It's a challenge.
Yes, they challenge people, which is hard to do because to say you're not for everybody, one, goes against like the whole DE&I culture in business nowadays. Two, you're struggling for people, so you can't turn away people. But by trying to make it something for everybody, it becomes something for nobody, or just becomes sterile in a sense. And you ironically struggle further, but it's a slower, more painful death.
Yeah.
Whereas I think what they've done is well worth studying, and not that it's perfect, but not have they only defined that. I think that's a big piece of it, but they've been very diligent about how they recruit.
Yep.
They've been diligent about who they use as recruiters. They use their best and brightest to be recruiters, not to be in the U.S.
and
Marines.
they also challenge you. So like recruiters used to be bad people.
Yes.
But they've been really smart about selection. They select people who can motivate you to want to be it, not just sign up. Like when my father joined, he joined because the judge said, hey, you can either go to Marines, get straightened out, or you can go to jail.
Yep.
Because he had an alcohol problem. And he chose the Marines, man. Like, no brainer, right? But that's how it used to be. Now, that's not how it is. It's like you were saying, they challenge you to be better. You're like, hey, you're great. Hey, you are, but you want to be better? Sign here.
But that's also a scary thing to do as a company. Well, why would we take our best performers and producers out of producing?
Agreed.
And go use them for recruiting? Like most companies would never do such a thing. But that, again, it's ironically one of the better things you can do long term. Use your best and brightest to find the people you need and then develop the people you need. Like,
I think, though, the good thing about, the one thing I recognize in the Marines, and it made because I've been in, is that a lot of people that are in, no matter what your role is, are high performers. So it's really hard to select who's the best to go because, we're all wired and programmed and trained the same.
Sure.
You do have people who fall below certain standards and they don't look down on. They try to find their strengths. And sometimes I've seen several people change from their primary to several different MOSs afterwards, right? Or jobs. Yeah. And it's because they constantly try to find where your strongest place is. I do a lot with my leadership stuff that I do. I don't always, like most people, focus on weaknesses. In the Marines, they focus on your strengths.
It is. The further I get down the journey of life, the more I realize some of this common knowledge and advice is terrible. And that's one of those things is, improve your weaknesses. And it's like, I don't know, man.
How am I going to do that?
Yeah. I haven't met any high achieving people that have been, secret of my success is really doubling down on making my weaknesses better. Like you can't, I think then you can take that too literally. Like, okay, I need to be a better communicator. I'm not going to be a remarkable communicator. I need to be better, but I'm going to focus on what I'm best at.
100%.
And then I'm going to let the other people within our executive team, especially, I'm going to let them do what they're best at. And we're all going to trust each other. We're all going to build the trust within one another. We're going to stay in our lanes. And it actually works out pretty damn well. Go figure.
I agree with you. It's funny you mentioned that. Through my shadow work process, I used to beat myself up pretty heavy because I was wired to focus so heavily on my, what I need to improve, because that's the corporate way. Right. And, it was crazy. I was on a long walk. Like I power walk every day. It helps to clear my head. Part of what I call self-care. And, one day it just rang a bell. I was like, I've been taking advice on how to improve from people who have never even been through half the stuff I have.
You have to be careful of that. Yeah.
What is wrong with me? Why have I not been smart enough to figure that out? Because it was always, hey, Justin, you wear your heart on the sleeve, this and that. I'm like, hell yeah, I wear my heart on the sleeve because I care.
Yeah.
I have passion. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So I think it's important to recognize, like, some of these programs and whatnot you listen to, it's like they're not really built for the success of the person.
Well, and that's one of the best things I've learned over the past maybe 5 years. I've really focused on it is, if I'm going to take this person's advice, are they where I want to be in that category?
Yep.
Whatever that category is, relationships, religion, finances, business, whatever it is. And if they're not, just discard everything they said, just get rid of it.
Yep.
And that sounds
it's not bad.
A little harsh, but you have to, because there's just so much fucking advice out there, and
it's really easy to get clouded.
Everybody wants to, and it's hard too with people close to you as well, because you I think that's where you need to be the most careful.
Yes.
Is they really care for you and love you, and they're not giving you advice to go steer you wrong intentionally, whatever it is, but it's not always the best thing for you.
I tell people you get advice for the easiest path.
Yeah.
But with pain, you got to heal, right?
Yeah.
The easiest route is never the best route. But life.
I feel like that's the irony, though, of how a lot of people parent, is they want things better and easier for their kids.
You don't want to see no one go through pain.
Yeah, but yet they credit their pain for who they are.
You got to go through it to learn.
You have to go through it.
Nick Lavery says that all the time, man.
Yeah.
You want to learn? You got to feel pain.
Well, and he's been through it.
Yeah.
He's been through it more than most.
I love his when he came to Milwaukee. I loved his session, and it was Train to Fail.
That's where Dan met him, was at Milwaukee.
Yeah, Train to Fail. And because I never really thought about that. Because we always call it lesson learned or whatever it might be, and or the what ifs. We specifically in the safety profession, what ifs. And when he put it in that format, he's like, "Hey, listen, I'm going to train you to fail. And it's not, I really want you to fail, but I want you to know what to do when failure happens."
Yeah, you're not paralyzed.
Yeah, and I think it's ironic because, like, I know that his group that he's in the Army, they're very multidisciplined.
Yeah.
Same with the SEALs. Not one person on a SEAL team is the exact same. They all know each other's job, but you want different levels or different types of leadership in you want, right? So the planning to fail really set well with me because I find that people get stuck. I don't want to say stuck, but into one mode or one way. Life doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
I mean, construction jobs change on drop. I mean, hey, this equipment's not showing up today. All right. So does everybody sit around? No, they're going to figure it out. Right. Yeah. But I find that especially when I worked at Kiewit, Dave Flickinger was the president of Power Group, and he would always raise a red flag on rework because people take shortcuts. You take shortcuts to rework, people get hurt.
Yeah.
Right? So
reworks actually were a vast majority of
injuries
happen.
Yeah, and quality issues.
Yeah.
So he would always say that, like, hey, life is not the same every day. When it changes, do you just keep going and get hurt? No. Take a pause. He would say, take a pause. And that still sticks to me. I left Kiewit in 2012.
Yeah.
And I always remind people that in life, when things are going wrong, pause. And Jocko says it.
Well, it's contrary in a lot of ways to like the conventional wisdom of like, you've just got to keep pushing.
Yeah. And that's the Marine Corps too. You push and keep plugging.
Yeah. Just never give up.
Put duct tape on it, whatever.
Yeah.
But, that's all great in battle. But in life, it's different.
But even sometimes not. Sometimes it's helpful to, if you can, take inventory of, hey, what's even happening right now?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even see that over there because I was so focused on what's right in front of me here.
We're emotional human beings.
Yeah.
The emotion side, like I talk a lot about that in the education session that I created called The Human Side of Leadership. So many people in construction focus on operational focuses,
Uh-huh.
and they don't understand how the operational impacts the emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
We make split decisions, emotional decisions based on how we're feeling that day, all of that stuff, and it really does have an impact. So from a leadership perspective, I try to get people to really take a pause, take inventory, like, hey, operationally, these are my top 5 responsibilities.
Mhm.
How does that impact emotionally me or the team? Right. So purpose, people, expectations. That's 3 simplified processes to managing yourself or people, right?
Sure.
And I always talk about that with people like, okay, so here's the operation. What's my purpose? Either me or the team's. Who's my team? What's their strengths? How's it impact them? Okay, we're working 12 hours. Okay, 5 of my people have 3 or more kids. Are they going to be able to do this? Okay, maybe not. Let's talk to them on a human level. Hey, are you able to do this? That
No,
kind of stuff. Because that does affect them emotionally.
that's ridiculous.
You know what I mean? I'm just saying it.
Just work 12 hours.
Yeah,
Shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as you're seeing the construction industry evolve,
Uh-huh.
you're hearing the word empathy more. I've seen it a lot more in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Being cognizant of who your people are, even the way they've been brought up, all of that stuff, and then defining reality expectations versus make believe. I mean, how many times have you heard, "Hey, we're gonna finish this job 12 months early"?
Well, I think there's a
You
lot
know
of
what I mean?
I think there's a lot of make believe in the industry in general right now.
That's because people that are, I'll be honest, people that are writing these proposals or bids or whatever you want to call them have never done the job.
Well, I've started to dig into some of these mega projects that have gone
Oh, it's nuts.
so wrong.
Yeah.
And they're not talking about it, but it's like,
Well, if you
Hey.
can't get the steel,
yeah.
or the steel comes late,
Well,
what's these 700 people sitting there doing?
I read about one in California. It might have something to do with rail. This company comes in out of the United States. They propose this way of doing the project that's going to save like a ridiculous sum of money, hundreds of millions, if
I'm
not
already red flag.
billions of dollars. Yeah. So they come in and they're like, sure, this is so innovative. Good for you. You can go build it. They didn't use any one bit of the proposed change in design because it's not feasible.
It's all about money.
And it ended up being way more expensive.
Yep.
And it's not even close to being completed.
If it's a time and materials job, that's why they did it that way. When I worked for Kiewit, we did some time and material jobs,
Yeah.
but there was a huge incentive package if we finish early. Typically we were smarter than the owner, and it was about making extra money.
Yeah.
And listen, I get it. Hey, capitalism that's construction.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're a fine-tuned machine, you know what will work.
The argument in this article I read specifically was that the problem is everything is starting to become so complex from a environmental standpoint, legal standpoint, engineering standpoint,
1,000%.
that these agencies, the customer that's supposed to be managing the work and making sure everything's getting done according to how it should be done on budget, etc. They just don't have the horsepower necessary to
Nobody
monitor
does.
these multi-billion-dollar jobs.
Experience level is diminished.
No. So then they have to rely on not just the contractors, but the consultants.
Yeah.
And the consultants are the ones making the coin right
Yep.
now on these
Agreed.
big projects, billions of dollars from these consulting
That's
fees.
the experienced people.
Yes.
Because of so especially right now, the industry, there's a huge gap in, when you look at the demographics of leadership and people in the construction industry. One of the main reasons for leadership is the recession in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
In 2008 and 9, there was a lot of big jobs happening right before that. I worked for Kiewit at the time. I was on Ireton power plant, got shipped to Massachusetts. At Ireton, we were averaging 240,000 man hours a week, just Kiewit.
It's crazy.
Tons of people.
Yeah.
And after that job is when the recession started hitting. Those people had no work.
Mm-hmm.
Where do they get? They left the construction industry.
Yeah.
They had wife, kids, vice versa, whatever, and they have family. Their bills don't stop,
Sure.
right? So the construction industry took a huge hit of loss of people who now would be leading in leadership. They're not there. There's a huge gap in the 35 to 50 year range.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't there.
Well, and the first thing, like Herb Sargent's talked a lot about this at length.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not developing people while you're in survival mode as a company. You're not training.
Well,
you're just give
the whole
whatever.
construction industry is in survival mode right
Well,
now,
it is.
still.
Yes, but during the recession, they basically just stopped developing people. So even if you retained people, their development from a leadership standpoint was non-existent. So you still have this gap in leadership capital.
Yeah. I just did, I read an article 2 weeks ago, said $24.7 billion a year right now is spent on leadership training in the construction industry. And of that, only 15% of the people being trained are for leadership, right? Only 15% of the construction industry are being trained. But of the 15%, 80 of that 15% is in the C-suite.
Yeah. And
so the people on the ground, the people in the boots on the ground, the people running work and stuff aren't being involved in that, right? So how is that helping your company? Because the C-suite people are 10, 15 years away from retirement. You're not redeveloping.
I also question what counts as leadership training.
Human behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I was looking at, not as much financial or what adds to the top money goal or anything. It's more about human leadership development. Like how do you work with people, the different demographics of that.
But I wonder how much of that training is actually anything even remotely effective too.
Agreed, because most of it's production based,
and probably a lot of it is within this whole new DE&I world, and a lot of it's. I find a lot of it very disconnected.
Yeah,
from reality, from the field.
I work in Boston. I worked in Boston for many years. You know that, and there's not many things that I really agree with from where I'm from. But one of the things I do have to say is the trade professionals there, they don't care gender, color, anything like that. They just, if you show up and you can do your job, they embrace you.
Yeah.
They don't care about all the programs, and, all that stuff. It's like, you show up, you do your job, great. If not, I'm going to tell you about it.
Yep.
And so it's great. And that's the way I wish it was everywhere, because trade professionals just want to come and make a living.
Yeah. And that,
you know what I mean? It's just cramming all these stupid programs. And I'm not saying they're stupid, because in some parts of the country, there's people who don't get a chance. I understand that.
Get it.
And I agree that everyone should have a chance to make a living. That's how I was raised. And I believe in that. I manage you can do the job, do the job.
Yeah.
I don't care if you have long hair, short hair, whatever, man. Same in the Marine Corps. We're not based on color. It's dark or light Marine, WM or Marine. You still have the title Marine. Like, you can do a job, great. Not, don't be around.
Yeah.
So in the construction industry, it's I struggle with seeing all these different programs if they're not really effective.
I think like the problem in a lot of ways could be solved. You go into Blattner's office. I love it because they have all the signs everywhere that say you either work in the field or support somebody that does.
Yeah.
If everybody spent more time in the field, if all these people in the office got around to the field a little bit more, like even from a training standpoint,
boots on the ground, 100%.
Man, I need to get my HR people into the field quarterly. I don't know what that looks like, but even
it should be every month.
It should be every month, but right now it's probably not ever. And if you were able to do that, though, just that level of understanding, like I feel like that's another thing the Marines do really well.
100%.
Dan always talks about this.
Yep.
It's like, hey, no matter where you are in the Marines, you're supporting the guy with the rifle, because that is the U.S. Marines.
Well, the other part is, it doesn't matter what level of commander you are, whether it's second lieutenant all the way up to general, they have a rifle in their hand, and they're in their field with you.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
yes,
you do have some that whatever, but like
you've got plenty of those
but
still.
Most officers that I ever encountered, and still to this day, I have lots of good friends. They're about the people.
Yeah,
they're about their people making. I saw a 3-star general yesterday walking back from the marathon because I did the 10K, and I was walking back, and he said, "Hey, stop." I was walking across the Freedom Bridge. I was like, "Yes, sir." I had never met a 3-star general ever in my career, life. He goes, "Hey, stop. You doing okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, why? Do I look bad?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "Thank you for doing the run today and supporting." He goes, "When did you get out?" And I said, 93. And I go, "I've never met a 3-star general that talked to people." He goes, "Things have changed, man. We're about the people." I mean, I'm not scripting this. I'm just saying. He said that. He's with his wife. I was like, "Well, thank you." He shook his hand and he kept walking. Like, yeah, stop and talk to me.
Sure.
31 years ago, that would have never happened.
Yeah.
But it's reality.
Yeah.
Boots on the ground. You hear me say that term a lot. I've been pushing that in the construction. That was the Kiewit way. I mean, boots on the ground, gloves on the hand, right? That was kind of their mindset. It was, you want to be about the people, you got to be with the people. And field experience is number one.
Well, and like in this book, this book's actually about Kiewit. That was one of the big things. Peter Kiewit, he was always out on the job, especially when things were going bad.
I mean, think about the history of that company. Started out as a mason company.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they make you go through the program. When you join, they make you go through, if you want the book, you got to go take a class. So,
Masons
and
culture
class.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
And now here you are building the world.
They got a DOD job, and that made the company explode.
It was definitely World War II was good for them.
Yep.
Yeah, World War II was good for business, and you don't talk about that. When you learn about World War II, the focus is obviously on Europe and the Pacific Theater.
Yep.
Not back home, but it's like our whole economy became a war economy. To support this effort.
I mean, we were just talking about the wooden handles down the street, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the whole economy was retooled to go to war.
Yeah.
And Kiewit was one of the big beneficiaries of it.
Yeah,
I've also read like the Bechtel book, and it's like, oh, that's where they go build all this stuff. It's all for the Department of Defense and the federal government.
Federal money is big jobs.
That's where it's at. Yeah. How long were you at Kiewit for? 11
years.
Oh, wow. You did a while.
Yeah.
So that's
100-hour weeks. I tell everybody, like, when I left there, I could have, by theory, the amount of hours I worked, I should have been able to retire.
Yeah. So that's a long time. Yeah. Usually it's, people make it a few years and then.
Oh, they disowned me as soon as I put my papers in, man. It's like, what do you mean you're leaving?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you were probably getting to the point where.
I was up there.
You get into the stock program.
I was running big jobs, man. Brayton Point. And I was at the cooling tower and then the AQS in the back. Combined, that was, and it doesn't sound like a lot now, but it was a $2 billion job.
Every project's a $2 billion job nowadays.
I mean, that was in 2008 to 2012. I mean, there wasn't $2 billion jobs back then.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, we did finish that job 9 months early, but they got a $65 million bonus for it.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's one of the big things they do is, so how much money could you give us if we finish this early?
I mean, they're not dumb.
$65 million.
Yeah, we added an extra shift.
More.
We had 4 shifts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, then they just come through and just blow it out. I watched them, I think it was I-70 in Denver.
Yeah.
Watching them they just kick the shit out of that job.
I'll tell you, their road, the Denver district is their civil group.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They know how to do work, man.
They smoked that one.
They bonded the I-93 extension job in Boston where they would tear down and replace 3 bridges on a weekend. And it was a JV job, but who could do that?
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
They never were late. And it's pretty serious, man. You can tear down a bridge and put it back where people can use it on Monday. You start on Friday evening.
Were you always in safety when you were with them?
Yeah.
How'd you get into safety to begin with? Because that's not a very sought after job, I would say. That's not like the job. Like, yeah, you know what? I want to be safety.
You see, it's funny. It wasn't my original path. And it's funny you say it because I do a lot of mentoring, but also a lot of education sessions with safety professionals. And I explain to them, safety is one of the most mentally challenging jobs I've ever encountered in my life.
I think that's why people, don't want to do it.
It's really tough because you're constantly dealing with compliance issue, which compliance is a bad word.
Uh-huh.
You're trying to get people to do the right thing so that they don't get hurt. And you have to constantly fight with them in a way that seems like you got to be nice.
Yeah.
So you're constantly like divided in your mind, but you always have to do it with a smile.
And only one thing has to go wrong.
And then it's your ass.
For it to be your ass.
Safety people have been fall guys forever.
Yeah, you can do 10,000 things right.
Do it all
right. One
right.
thing goes wrong that you have nothing to do with.
It's just like human life. Like everyone, you're doing all this great stuff, but people will remember the one little thing that went wrong.
Uh-huh.
And you really didn't have any part of it, right? So, but anyways, I was an ironworker, and I was very fortunate because I got laid off. It made me to figure out, like, geez, I was like number 300 on the list, sitting, and I'm grateful that the business agent was honest to me. He says, "Listen, kid, you got no family, you got no wife, no kids. All these other people got kids, man.
Yeah,
like it's gonna be a while
here. Yeah,
it's like not that we don't appreciate it. Back then, they didn't have one foreman to 5 apprentice conversations. It was whoever got called up was the number on the list or who knew you, kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But he was at least honest. It's like, hey, you don't have any family, kid, so not that you're not important. These other people have a little bit more prioritized.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, yeah. I didn't take personal.
Yeah.
At least he was honest to me, got the picture. So I worked my ass off to try to get into the fire service. And I got very lucky that the Overland Park Fire Department grabbed onto me and tried being a firefighter medic. And while I was doing it, there was a captain who had a safety company on the side. And part of the fire service, you learn how to save and rescue people in confined spaces.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of Firefighter 1 and 2, the University of Kansas program I went through. So I was fortunate I had that. He goes, hey, you want to come work on the side? Make some extra money. Mm-hmm. I made $41,000 a year.
Yeah.
Plus I'd get like a shift every once in a while. So $46,000 a year. Yeah. I wasn't making any money.
Flush with cash.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of days off
we had a lot of days off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I worked construction, building houses in some of my days off. And then he offered me to work part-time being a confined space rescue tech. I was like, well, how much does it offer? And he goes, it's right around $40 an hour. It was 39 something bucks an hour. Sure. I'm like, I'll do it.
I think I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I was working 30 hours a week for that guy, his company at Bayer.
Okay.
In Kansas City, because they do shutdowns. They clean these tanks and nasty stuff, man. Like,
sure.
When you think of Bayer, you don't think like they make shampoo. They make like, it's bad stuff. So if someone was to fall, break their leg, and we'd go in and rescue them. So standby, 40 something bucks, almost $40 an hour. I was game.
So it's kind of like an off-duty cop doing traffic control.
Yeah.
You're just there
hanging
in
out,
case something happens.
Go in, rescue you, and then that's it. So
I see.
We only had to go pull a guy out once, and he broke his leg. So it was really easy gig, but they were paying good money. So one thing led to another, and we were actually at a Olin Mills in St. Joseph, Missouri. They had a big plant that made cereal and different products from corn. I mean, obviously, biggest corn area of the nation almost, right? They send all their corn there and they make cereal, and they're doing a shutdown. And the project manager would say hi to me every once in a while to hang out. And he came up by and went, hey, can I talk to you later on today? I was like, Yeah, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, God, man, I upset somebody, you know,
Sure.
because he didn't talk to me.
Yeah.
Then he pulled me aside and was like, hey, I'd really like to see if you would come to work here. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, we haven't had any injuries since you've been on our job. I mean, everybody's talking about how you, well, hey, man, that doesn't look too safe, or just had the conversation with someone. And it wasn't like I was telling them that they were being idiots or anything. It's like, hey, dude, I'm trying to learn, like, just communication.
Yeah.
Normal, everyday conversation, non-compliant. It was just like, hey, I just don't want you to get hurt. Why are you doing it that way or whatever? And you ever thought about getting into safety? And it's like, no, not really. And he goes, we'll start you at $100,000 a year.
And then that was that.
That was that.
Yeah. Yeah.
$46,000 a year, working crazy hours, $100,000 a year. And I get a $20,000 bonus if we go injury free.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all she wrote.
And then you got into the construction not that long after?
That was technically construction because they were doing shutdowns.
Oh, I see.
So that company got bought by Kiewit.
And that's how you got into that world.
Next thing you know, they're like, hey, you're going to go to this job. No, now you're going to that job.
I see.
11 years later.
And you were safety the whole time with them.
Yep.
I
had to get my OSHA 500 on that job. That was it.
What is OSHA 500?
That means you can train OSHA 10, 30 hour. Back then, well, nowadays you have to have 5 years experience in the construction industry. Back then, you just had to have the OSHA 30 hour.
Do you think OSHA 10, OSHA 30 is effective?
No.
I don't either.
Now, not for the way it's used.
Yeah.
Like, and when I say that, I think parts of it are effective, but the way people use it when they talk, like, all of our people are trained OSHA 10 or OSHA 30. That means they're safe. No, that's not even why it's meant.
I agree.
It's a program designed, and I understand why OSHA has regulated the way it's used now. It was really designed to proactively teach people entering the construction industry on types of risk they're going to be exposed to and how to understand how to protect themselves.
Yeah.
And the 30 hour was originally supposed to be like, this is where and how you find the information to be a better supervisor or leader. However, since it was developed, people have really like, oh, I'm OSHA 30. I'm a better leader just because of that.
I think it became a business too.
Yeah.
Once it becomes a business, it does. Yeah.
Well, now people charge like all this crazy money.
That's what I mean.
I'll tell you, I think I've only been paid to teach 10-hour a few times. And it's because it was make extra money when I was working safety for a large GC that they needed it for a program that they were working with. Besides that, I've always done it for free. I make it about life experiences.
I thought it was good to learn the basics. Like it's good general information. Okay, I need a ladder over so and so.
Here's how you inspect it.
Trench pot. Yeah. Tag. Hey, if the ladder's damaged, don't use it. So on and so forth. Stuff that's not. I would not say it's common knowledge. It's common knowledge to people that have been on job sites for a while. Yeah. But it's not common knowledge to somebody just entering the industry.
It's entry level is what it's meant for now.
Yeah. The struggle that I had with it, one, was that it's primarily for vertical construction, very little for civil construction.
Yep.
So you're learning a lot of stuff, a lot of information that has nothing to do with what you're going to do.
It has just like in, like I'm very close to like high level people in OSHA that are like way up the food chain. And they'll be the first to admit that unfortunately the way the Department of Labor and OSHA standards are written, it's like takes 10 years to change something.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yes. So, yeah. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's the system they're in.
The industry is, we're human beings, man. We ain't waiting, right?
Yeah.
We're rapidly evolving with no matter whether it's technology and power tools, PPE or even equipment, whatever it might be, right? Their standards, which is the minimum standard to work by, are way behind where the industry is. And they can't keep up.
That's how mining is too.
Yeah, same.
Mining's even worse because the rule book has literally not changed since the 70s.
I'm surprised it doesn't still say you need a canary.
Yeah,
well,
they wrote it after the canary thing got phased out.
I'm just saying,
in the 70s, but it is
where the
wildly antiquated.
Yes.
But it was good for me to learn the basics. I would say it could have been of 30 and OSHA 5, and I would have got the basics of civil construction. But what was by far the most impactful was the horror stories. Like as soon as my foreman, the first foreman I worked for, he showed me this picture of this guy. Someone kicked a roofing tile off a building like 5 stories up, smoked a guy in the head, and he showed me the picture of it, and it was terrible. I can visualize it right now
active learning is the best way for construction people to learn.
I saw that, I'm like, you don't have to tell me twice.
Yeah.
Or I see what happened to a guy that got a trench collapsed in on him, just buried to his waist, still somehow dies.
Yeah. The crushing injuries is the worst part of it.
Yeah, they just got their legs crushed. Yeah. They can still technically breathe.
All their organs are dead underneath.
That was all that was required. Go straight to the heart, you're dead. That was all I needed to know. It's like that kind of stuff was way more effective and way more frightening.
I agree with you, man. I was very fortunate that the person I took the OSHA 500 from, his name's Jim Goss. Really amazing individual. He's been a safety, forever. He's part of the Keene State group as well, because that's where I took my 500 from. And he made that a big point. He's like, listen, you want to impact your students, share the information you learn as you go with them.
Yeah.
And that's important. I call it ILL, incident learning opportunity. I put real stories, like what happens to people in these, and that's something I learned at Kiewit. Actually, we called it an incident alert. One incident happened on the job, the whole nation would hear about it throughout the Kiewit network, right?
Yeah.
It's because they don't want it to happen to other people. I felt like that's the same way. And I integrated that into my training practices a long time ago. And that was because Jimmy Goss, that was a big part. He's like, they're going to learn if you share real incidents with them. It's important.
And I think that sharing is amazing. I've also seen it do the absolute opposite.
It could scare the bejesus out of people too.
It scares the shit out of you, and you don't report stuff.
I agree.
Especially they're always like, report everything, even a cut. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, like, there's no fucking chance that I report a cut to you. That's not a chance.
That's
dude.
A bad culture. If someone does, if that's your culture, and then you terminate them.
And I've seen that. I've seen somebody make a very basic error, and it's an error that anybody could make.
Yeah,
it scratched a piece of equipment.
We're all human beings.
Wasn't ideal. Yes. Yeah. Yes. It happens. It happens, and fired right on the spot. Right there, fired right on the spot. And it's like, so we're not going to have a conversation. Be like, hey,
again, empathy towards
let's learn beings. Here. So what happened?
Yeah,
just fired the guy like that, and it's like the whole rest of the crew's sitting there watching it. Like, okay, I am not gonna.
Yeah, no, that's a bad culture. I'll be honest.
It's an enforcement culture.
I'm grateful that I have the knowledge and the backing to where if I did work somewhere like that I could be like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Because I would refuse to work in that kind of environment, because I do want the person to tell me when things happen, cut, whatever, because I look at everything as a learning opportunity. And you don't have to, here, again, the empathy, human side, like, people have lives going on.
Yeah.
They have a thing in here called the brain. Just because you're at work doesn't mean you're not thinking about your wife's going through chemo, or one of your kids got something going on in their life, they're getting bad grades because you're not around, or whatever it might be. Like, it doesn't stop. Like, okay, hey, listen, I'm going through divorce right now, whatever it might be. I forgot to put my glasses on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there was a person I worked with at
forgot.
Brayton Point who ran the plant side. I'll never forget this. He called me and said, hey, because if you got fired from that location, you got put on a permanent ban list.
Mhm.
That is the only power plant in that area that people would do shutdowns. That was their life.
Mhm.
That was how they provided for their families.
Mhm. So
This guy called me and was like, hey, I was coming in this morning and one of your people didn't have glasses on. I was like, okay. And he goes, you know what that means? I was like, I'll have a conversation with him. No, I want you to bring him and have a conversation with me. I was like, no problem. I knew the person that he was talking about was one of our top foremen. And I know why he removed his glasses, because he was on the phone.
Yeah.
Took it off. He can't see the phone with the safety glasses. They're fogged up. It was a muggy day.
Yeah.
So anyways, we go in there and he goes, I'd like you to let this guy go. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. And he goes, what do you mean? I was like, did you have a conversation with him? And he goes, well, why do I need to have a conversation? You didn't have a glass. You know the rules. Like, why did you not have your glasses on this morning? He goes, because I can't see the phone. On who was texting or calling me. And this was in 2010, I think it was, when texting so he's still learning how to use the phone that we had just given him at Kiwi, right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't see it because my glasses were all fogged.
Yeah.
So do I let the guy trip and fall? Or do I let him take his glasses off?
But that's where, and that's what, like,
but he wanted me to fire that guy.
I struggle.
Happening.
That's indicative, though, of how a lot of this world works. It's just so compliance based.
Yes.
We're going to make one rule. You always wear glasses. Okay. So we're not going to acknowledge that sometimes glasses
human side of things
are not necessary.
Stuff happens.
Get in the way of things.
Yeah.
Like, I've been in so many situations where everybody's glasses are fogging up like wild.
In New England, that's normal.
I could argue that it's more dangerous for us to be walking around this job site with no present danger of anything flying into my
during COVID.
during COVID, it was the worst.
Safety professional's nightmare, dude.
You're going to have a mask on and glasses?
A mask and glasses.
Get out of here.
I'll never forget, I had a lead super on a job call me. He goes, Justin, I need to have a real world conversation with you. I knew he was upset about something. And I was like, okay, what's up? And he goes, I'm really trying hard to be compliant here, but you're forcing me to wear a mask. I'm like, I'm not forcing you to wear the mask. The state of Massachusetts is. It's just part of the rules. Stay open, so we stay open. He goes, okay, that's great. I just almost fell down a flight of stairs because my glasses are so fogged up. So which is it? What's more important? Do I take the glasses off or do I take the mask off? I was like, take the glasses off, man. For God's sake, I want you to be able to see. Why are you even calling and asking me this?
Yeah.
He is so worried about being lead by example, which I was grateful for, but that was an everyday conversation.
But
it was nuts. Like,
I think this is where I think people are very reasonable.
Most people are. They want to do the right thing.
But if you're honest with them, they understand. And so I just struggle when it's like, hey, you have to do this, and it's almost a threat. It's not a threat, but it's a threat.
It's a threat.
And because you're our number one priority, and you are most important here. This is for your safety. And then they go do 100 things that's like
all the time.
I know I'm not the priority. I know. So the priority, we're building this building. The priority is me? No, it's not.
It's the money.
It's building the building.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here if if safety was, that was the most important thing. We wouldn't be I wish there was an honest conversation about it. Like, hey,
I'll tell you,
we've had so many hand injuries. It's just out of control. And this is really hurting the company XYZ. And we know that it's going to be inconvenient for you. But it's really important that we do this. I get it. It's not for everything, but this is what we've got to do right now to ensure that we can keep our clients happy and keep building. If it's put like that, okay, I understand it. I get it. But it's never framed like that. It's never honest.
I'll tell you, man, the most important part of any safety culture, and this is the only way I work now, is it's got to legitimately be about the people doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to do that is to involve them.
Yes.
So I use committees. Anything that, like, so before I was to say, hey, I would like to transition to these kind of gloves or the helmet. We talked about that in the past. What's your opinion on this? And I want them to pick.
Yeah.
I want them to be involved in the why, right? Because they're the ones wearing it. They're the ones. I ran into that breaking point. I got called at 2:00 in the morning. Justin, we have an eye injury. The Boilermaker working night shift. I lived 15 minutes from the job. It was on purpose. I need you to come in, help the guy. So I come in, like, hey, he had a piece of junk in his eye. I was able to touch it with a Q-tip, got it out. He was fine. He was excited because he thought it was slag, maybe burned into his eye. I was worried. I said, hey, I'm going to try this 2 times. If I get it, great. If not, we'll take you to the hospital. Straight across the board. So I got it out. And of course, he was worried he was going to get fired. Because, hey, you must not have your glasses on bullshit, right? So I asked him, I was like, hey, what happened? And I want you to be honest with me because I don't want to lie in my report. I'm very big on ethics. And he goes, I have my glasses on, Justin. He goes, but the problem is when they fog, I had to slide them down.
Yeah.
Because I had my welding shield on. Because he's welding.
Yeah.
He goes, if I roll them down like this, I still technically have them on, but I can still see through the square. Sure. I think it's 2 by 5 inches of a opening on his welding hood. And he said that I had to slid down because we didn't like people to wear glasses with a hood down because it would amplify the brightness of the light and damage your eyes worse, allegedly. That's what we were told. So he said, I had my glasses on, but when I lifted my hood, shit sit down. Listen, that's every day for Boilermaker. They work in some of the most disgusting work areas ever, right? So, and he's welding. I'm like, he was honest. So I tell my project manager the next day, and project manager was like, oh, you can't put that in report. We're all getting fired. I'm like, not me. I ain't getting fired because I'm telling the truth. So I did.
Yeah.
And we were told, figure it out. Doesn't matter how much money you spent. No problem. So I grabbed we had a safety walk group that week. Every week it changes, a different foreman, different apprentice. I say, hey, we're going on a road trip. I'm like, oh, great. So I went and drove to a Harley Davidson dealership right down the road and said, here's all the glasses they offer. Which ones do you guys like? Because they were complaining they didn't like the type of glasses. They fogged up. They picked Wiley X's. $80 glasses.
Yeah.
I bought 10 of them.
Yeah.
I had a P card. Brought them back to the job. Guys liked them. They started wearing them. No issue. Week later, I call Wiley X. Hey, can I buy 200 pair of glasses? And they're like, yeah. So I bought 6 different types. They shipped them overnight. It was like almost $90,000.
Yeah.
Safety glasses. Foam lined, everything. We created a sizing program because they were fog free, allegedly. And they didn't fog up. They were like legit. But the guys all knew we cared about them. No one got fired. But we were honest, right?
Yeah.
2 weeks later, this is like a program they're running through the whole company now because we were honest, right? And my project manager was terrified because he wanted to make up some other elaborate story because, like you were saying, he was afraid everyone was going to get fired.
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy.
That's the bad culture, right?
Yeah.
So I've always worked in every culture I work in now. Number one is honesty, but you involve trade professionals to make decisions, whether it's policy, compliance, engagement, whatever it might be, right? Hey, this might be a cool idea on my side, but it may not be something they like.
Yeah.
If you really want their DNA on your program, you got to involve them.
Well, Yeah, you're not the one using the shit every day.
But plus, I'm not. Yes, I was an iron worker.
Yeah.
Do I watch human behavior? Have I done it for 30 years? Yes. But I'm not that. That's their profession.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to, they know.
Well, even if you know, though, you're just giving them the opportunity to provide feedback.
That's called buy-in.
It goes a long way.
Yeah. That's respect.
I think like one of the favorite things I've heard from Jocko is intent has a smell.
Yeah.
And I think people are smart enough too to really understand if the company and their leaders do genuinely care for them or if they don't.
Yeah.
And the companies that do genuinely care, they have a different feeling to them. It's
competitive now.
I've seen a lot of
very
both
competitive now, where I've seen trade professionals that will quit a job and go work for a company that cares about them.
Totally.
And they'll make $1 or less an hour.
I tell people to do that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, if they don't give a shit about you, find a company that does.
Because they can't. Hey, the trade professional, it's in their corner right now.
Yeah.
There's 500,000 open jobs in the construction industry. And it's in their corner. If they want to, it's in their best interest to work somewhere that cares for them.
Yeah.
Provides the right tools, all that. So if they go somewhere that does, it's on them. If they can pick up and go.
I just struggle with the whole, like, I just don't like being treated like a 6-year-old.
Agreed.
And I think a lot of times they treat people like 6-year-olds. Listen, you don't know how to take care of yourself. So we're going to tell you what you have to do because we know.
Again, that goes back to what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
I was being judged by people who have not even a glimpse of my experience, telling me what I need to do.
That's what I struggled with the whole COVID thing too, because it got wrapped into the safety realm as well. It's like
I almost killed myself because of it.
Some of these people, it's like, you're going to tell me how to be healthy? You couldn't even walk a mile, dude.
Yeah.
So I'm good. Like I don't need to take advice from you. I don't need to listen to you because
I love that you say that.
Just look in the mirror. Like and it's not to be an ass, but it's like
it's reality. It's an impression.
I can and if I'm empowered, I first and foremost, like safety should be, I'm incentivized to be safe. Like whenever somebody says, some people, they get really nervous when we're on job sites and they haven't seen us work, so on and so forth. It's like, oh, these fucking guys with cameras, they're just gonna get in the way, this and that. And they'll say
my life.
Yeah, they'll say things like along the lines like, this and that. And I say it jokingly but serious. Like listen, I don't want to get run over by a mining truck more than you don't want me to get run over by a mining truck.
Because I mean,
I promise you,
you're like a little pebble for that thing.
Yeah, but I promise you, like, you're the one that has to do the paperwork. I'm the one that got run over, so I am incentivized. I'm
right there with you.
Yeah. First and we are on the same team, man. I promise. Like,
do I need any more brighter stuff on? Like,
but it's like, and even if it's like I'm just some safety guy in this big corporation, I think being honest with people, like I said with the gloves thing, like guys, I know this is a pain in the ass. I know the 100% glove thing. Yeah, it sucks sometimes. But hey, can I get you some different types of gloves?
Let's find what works.
Yeah. And I know maybe you need latex over here, but then you need something more, leather over here, but then you need something more in between here. I love the fact that
you know that, because 15 years ago, it was one fit all.
Yeah, but that's
messed up.
But people that have done, especially watching, I've talked to so many mechanics.
Oh, yeah,
the 100% glove thing drives them.
I know. My uncle's a master mechanic.
Because you have to do certain things with your
high
fingers.
Dexterity gloves now, man. Like,
yes, but even say those. Yeah, like even they say, well, why don't you just wear latex? But then you've get oil on them and stuff will start slipping right off.
That dissolves the glove right in front of my face.
Yeah.
I know, dude. Like when I'm 100%. Like one of the things that I love about what you just said is, first and foremost, like the heavy haul trucks. I love how you post pictures, like especially like the tire or like where the person's standing, like just the tread of it almost.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's taller than some of these heavy haul trucks are almost as tall as some of the mega yachts. But if you'd be like a piece of dust, right? So I'm with you. Like I don't think people realize how big they are.
Well, but I just like, they always come at it from like, please, for me, don't get run over. And it's like, dude,
if I even hear that thing within 50 feet of me, I'm going the opposite way.
We're good. Like, because I have the attitude, my safety is my responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm not counting on Justin, anybody else to keep me safe.
Responsible for your safety.
Yeah. If I'm counting on somebody else, you're done. But the flaw in some of these programs is it fools people into thinking that I'm in charge of your safety, or it's on the safety guy or whatever it is. It's not on you. And then you start to get a little, it's kind of the same thing with right now with law enforcement in a lot of ways. So if you look at the average response time for law enforcement in major metro areas across the United States, because of what's happened, especially over the past few years, it's really bad. Like,
it used to be the average was 4 to 6 minutes. Now it's like 11 to 12.
Sometimes even more than that.
When you cut,
somebody's in your house.
When I lived in Kansas City, I'll never forget, man. And this was before 2010. I'll never forget. The girl I lived with at the time called 911. We were watching a woman outside our house get attacked. And she calls 911, and I'll never forget. Like, it rang and rang and rang, and someone finally opened it. It's like, 911 call center, we'll have to call you right back. And I'm like,
yes.
I went outside, and I had a firearm at the time. And I said, hey, stop. But he got up and ran.
But the
police showed up like 5 minutes later, and the girl's like, oh, I'm okay. I'm like, man, maybe if you had got here when the guy was on top of her choking her out,
I've gone my whole life. I've got my whole life thinking, if something happens, the police will be there
immediately.
But then you look at the math and you're like,
and unfortunately, I feel bad because the people that are actually dealing and doing the job get the bad rap.
Yes, this is not
just like what
this
we were talking about.
This is not giving the police shit,
safety and everything.
People shit. But
it's the mechanism of the setup.
But that, like, just life safety, it's like, oh, that's my responsibility. Like, my safety and security is my responsibility. It's not on law enforcement. I need to make sure I'm good to go, my family's good to go. First and foremost, like, that's my responsibility. And I think some people are raised that way. I wasn't. And
I love how you're saying this, because in my orientation in Kiewit, after like my 4th or 5th year, I started opening my orientation process because it was all day. You know that. I would tell people, hey, my role as project safety manager here. I want you to be the first and foremost. I don't want anybody to get hurt. But safety, your safety, is your responsibility.
Yeah.
And your job as a trade professional in this job is to make sure you hold me accountable for the program that we're running.
Yeah.
If you don't think it's running the way I'm telling you today, your job is to stop me and say, hey, Justin, this is not right, because I want to fix it. And that set a whole different tone for the people that were on the job, because I straight out told them, I'm not responsible for your safety. You are. Here, we're going to tell you our program. And when you get out in the field, if it's not that way, I'm boots on the ground every day. You need to stop me.
Yeah.
I want to hear about it, because we all agreed on this program. And if they're not doing it that way, I want you to let me know.
Yeah.
And the project manager would tell them the same thing. But the project manager, he had the stick. He would be out in the field every day. Bill Bodner was his name. He's the Eastern District manager now. Greatest people person I ever met in my life. He'd go out and shake hands. He'd say, Justin, come on. We're going. Every morning he'd be at the gate. He called it kissing babies, shaking hands.
Yeah. I say that all the time.
He knew, and I knew, almost every person's first name on that job without looking at their helmet. I got to know him. I mean, I learned that from Bill Bodner.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why he's a leader now.
Yeah.
But it came down to that. And again, man, I think it's important to, if you do, we were talking about setting up a program, making something that's viable, and then making it about the people.
Yeah.
That's safety.
I'm like I said, I could not be more for safety, but I just don't. I don't like it when it's made into something it's not. We're not here to do safety. We're here to do work productive work
in a safe
safely.
manner. Yeah.
We're not here to do safety. And like, I've seen it on fences. We do safety here. Like, no. If that was true, you wouldn't be building anything. You would just have everybody, all your employees, stay in bed. Stay in bed.
I love that
Don't leave your home.
So I love what you're like. We're here to build this safely.
Yes.
So I love that. But in the real world, unfortunately, you have a lot of contractors, whether it's GCs, subcontractors, or owners. They have magnificent programs written on paper, and they try to stick to a program that's efficient, productive.
Yep.
You always hear the word production.
Yep. Of course.
And I'm not a big. I pushed back a million times. I was like, with our people at my company, I'm like, we don't use the word production and safety. It's not the same.
Yeah.
But you have these programs. But then what happens is the group that designs the project doesn't, or is not part of the company that's doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
They design, and I ran into this a lot in Boston. I was fortunate at Kiewit because most of the projects that we do at Kiewit are designed by Kiewit.
Yep.
They have their own engineering.
Design build, yeah.
But unfortunately, in a lot of the world now, those large companies don't have the design. It's not all self-perform. It's not all self-design. So you have these engineers where all this stuff mathematically looks amazing on paper.
Yeah.
So a great example is when you put a chiller on the top of a building, right? And then you have to put a fan on top of the chiller in one of the highest places in the building. And it always weighs like 12 or 18,000 pounds, right? So you have these engineers that design all this amazing stuff. They never think about the poor soul that's got to install it.
Sure.
Like a great instance is downtown Boston. We built several buildings where we did the mechanical for when I worked for Canistro. We call it postage stamp building, right? The chiller or even the water tank for fire suppression was always 12 to 18,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get it put in place, I mean, one building was 62 stories, the Millennium Tower, and the other one was a JMA job in the middle of Seaport. That job, you had to have a 350-foot tall crane just to get it, because there was not enough space. So it was a mobile crane. Yeah. It was 10,000. If they would have been smart, they would have added 10,000 extra pounds to the weight for the tower crane. Mm-hmm. But they wanted to save like $200,000 for the duration of the rental of the crane, not putting the 10,000 pounds on. They had to bring in a special 350-foot crane with enough ass in it to lift the piece in place because of wind load. Yeah. They cost them more than it would have been to rent all that stuff, right? Yeah. So then when we get to putting the stuff in place, a pipe fitter is part of the rigging team. Has got to go up on top, unhook the hook, and then secure, like the way the fan was designed, it couldn't be moved a certain amount during installation or it'd ruin the bearings. Mm-hmm. They then had to go take a cover off, go in and remove a thing holding the bearings in place. 62 stories above a building. Yeah. And nowhere to tie off to.
This is where...
So how am I supposed to tell a guy, we care about your safety,
but just get the job done.
But go up there 62 stories, that's 600 feet above ground level.
Yeah.
Do that, and you can't tie off that way.
Well, there's also the weird thing that starts to happen, the mutation that is like that, where you run into something where it's like,
I know that seems extreme, but like stuff like that happens all the time.
It happens all the time. That, and then schedule pressure.
Yes.
Like, okay, you guys, and they, you know, like this is what Rockefeller would do. he would never be involved in what actually had to be done. He didn't want to know plausible deniability. He would all, just say,
do it.
Just whatever it takes.
Yep.
Just get it done. And then they'd go blow up some pipeline or something like that. But he would never be involved. Something like, oh my God, no, I never told him to blow up a pipeline. Are you kidding me? It didn't even go that far. Like, he was so far removed. But it's like, that's also, I think, you can see the companies where safety really is the priority.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see the companies where safety is a priority until we have to get done. And then it's like, just get the job done. I'm going to be over here. I'm not going to ask any questions. And that's not the conversation that they have, but it's kind of implied, like, just get it done. Just get it done. Whatever you need to do, just get it done. And that's when things start to slip as well.
I'll tell you what I learned after that first time we had to do that. We put in our contract, Canistro did afterwards, that in order for us to be part of an operation, that the manufacturer would have to install fall protection hooks for us.
Yeah.
And the general contractor was like, why is this here? And we explained to them, and they're like, oh, so like then it became a contractual issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was really happy to see the owners of that company have the balls to tell a GC, like, hey, this is a $30 million contract, but we're not going to do it unless you do this.
But
not all companies do that.
And I can understand why in a lot of ways too. It's like,
the
you need
risk,
the job. Yeah.
But they're like, dude, if that person fell, that's going to cost me $90 million.
Sure. But that's
financial
another
risk.
So that's another side of safety, though, that I wish the industry was honest about.
People don't even think about that side.
Safety is motivated by money.
That's my job.
It's bad for business to kill people.
I explain to people
that's it
all the time. Like, they do not understand, as a safety professional, my job is not to go out and tell people glasses.
Yeah.
Right. Even write all the programs. I'm more financially a part of the red line than anybody in this organization.
And it's financially motivated for everybody. Like, listen, leadership, communication, though,
100%.
Because, and this is what I ran into when I was in construction. I'm sure a lot of people have for so many different things. You're using the better tool, but you're not the tough guy now.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, look at you fucking nerd. Like, oh, cool tool, man. Yeah. We're going to be over here with our like real man tools.
Yeah, that macho mentality it's crazy.
It's real.
It's real.
It will be there for a very long time.
Yep.
And this is where you have to be confident enough in you as an individual to just say,
go pound sand, bro.
Yeah. 1, kick rocks. 2, don't even say it. You don't even need to. You don't even need to acknowledge it. Yeah, I'm going to be an asshole over here with my stupid little tool. There were a few different things that I did when I was in the field working on pipe crews that I did look like an asshole, but I knew I was protecting myself in adequate ways. Like Arizona in the sun, for example.
Yeah.
All the other guys I was working with were Mexican. They could have the sun on their skin all day and not have any real issues.
Us, we would melt.
I couldn't.
Fair skin.
My skin just I don't have the skin for that. So I'd have to really cover myself. I'd get made fun of nonstop.
Aaron, I wore sweatshirts in the desert all the time.
Yeah.
People give me a hard time.
I'd always wear long
sleeve. I was in
sleeve.
the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
They tell us to wear sweatshirts for a reason.
Yeah.
Because it helped keep us cool.
Yes. Yeah. No. I wore long sleeve.
Like, whatever, dude.
Long sleeve cotton shirt every day. So different things like that.
But hey,
but it takes.
You have to have confidence.
It's not as simple. You want it to be that simple, and someone in the office thinks it's that simple, but it's not that simple because you still have that.
It's unfortunate, specifically and it's all industries have that mentality.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's important. Like that's one of the reasons I think it's so important to teach the younger generation this is okay.
Yes.
Whether it's about injuries, how to protect yourself, or even the mental side of it. Like at a younger age, if you're learning from people that are outspoken or okay with vulnerability or okay with being honest ethically about legit, how to manage yourself in the construction industry. I think if they had the right coach or right mentor that they get impacted by up front, I think that I've seen more of the younger people confident enough to say, yeah, you can do that, but I'm going to do this.
Yeah, if you want to do that, like,
because they don't care. They care
No.
about them.
Yeah. And I've used the former generation too as sometimes a good example of what I don't want. Like when they are bent over getting out of a machine, or when their skin looks like
I tell
hardened
people
leather.
that you want to see a difference. You go to meetings where you have people who have been around a long time, worked in the industry, and you watch them walk around, get up from tables, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
These younger individuals are like, yeah, I don't want to be like that.
I'm good. I've heard a lot of comments online though too about, I was in construction. It's the hours or the beating their bodies up. And they're like, I don't want to do it anymore. And they've gotten out. And I think,
unfortunately, a lot of people that are getting in though, Aaron, are, like we talked about earlier, in survival mode and need a job.
Yes.
But they'll do anything it takes.
But then they get into it. But there's also a lot of jobs out there too now. So there's a lot of people bouncing out. And I think we have this recruiting problem. And I think we need to be honest with ourselves and say, would I want my son or daughter to go work for the industry that's number one in suicide by profession, or number one in overdose fatality by profession?
Yep.
Or do any of these numbers mean we're healthy? And when I talk about,
you heard me earlier, I said it's so competitive. I didn't mean like competitive, like for people to find people. It's like, what I'm saying is the all opposite. Is like, if you're a good company, and you take care of your people legit in leadership. And what I find is a lot of times executive leaders, CEOs, people who are in charge, were actually ground people first.
Yes. And
you got that. They're the most successful companies out there.
They're cleaning house right now.
Yeah.
And it's only going to widen.
Flocking to them to work for them.
Yeah.
Because they're smart. They care about themselves.
They care about their people.
Like you were saying, someone's parents, 95% of the time, like, yeah, what about this one? Yeah, you might make $5 less to start.
Sure.
But look at what they're offering about you.
Yeah.
I really think that you're seeing a lot more of that.
You are. It's just, there is still, I think, there's a lot of people that are getting, I hate this term, but gaslit by employers, yes. I think. And then there's
behind this curtain's a brand new car. Yeah, and you open the door, it's a 96 Camry.
There's plenty of that. And then there's also people getting themselves into some financial holes.
Very easy to do nowadays.
Bought the new bass boat or the new 250 Lariat or whatever it is. And I'm one of those assholes with an F-250 Lariat. But
I'm going backwards now, man. You know, it's funny. Like, we talked about this when I met you the first. Like, I'm retiring at the end of this year.
Yeah.
And I just bought a Jeep Gladiator because I need a car when I leave.
I can't stand those.
I understand. I bought it because it's $40,000.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles on it. I just needed a little truck.
It is bare bones.
Kick around town because I don't plan on taking family vacations in it or any of that, but just enough to, if I do yard work.
I get it.
Something.
I get
right?
it. I have to go out of my way to talk shit about those though.
I get it. It was $40,000.
Yeah.
I looked at the Chevy Colorado or Canyon, whatever it is, and the Ford Ranger, all that, $70,000.
Or even Tacoma is really expensive.
Same stuff.
Yeah.
I'm looking financially. I'm trying to be more. Okay, do I need all that stuff?
I get it. You're listening to your Dave Ramsey.
I'm not. I don't even listen, but
can't argue with it.
It's the conservative side of me saying maybe my mom wasn't stupid.
Yeah, there's.
You know what I mean? Because she's really smart when it comes to money.
Well, the problem is, like, 22-year-old kid has never.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm making
received
$60,000 here. Woo, let's go.
Receive that education.
I only have rent. That's it. You know.
But there are a lot. There's more and more great companies out there that are attracting people that want to work for a great company. They want to make good money, but money's not the only thing that matters because it's not. And they are taking care of their people in a holistic sense.
I tell people, specifically younger individuals, don't get caught up in the money up front because high dollar payout means high expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, if you are making $95,000 right out of college a year, they're going to expect a lot out of you, which means you might have a nice, beautiful Ford Lariat at home.
Yeah.
But you're never going to be driving it.
Yeah, because the hours.
Because you're going to be working 100-hour work weeks. They're going to suck you dry.
Yeah.
You have no life.
But that's also okay in your 20s too. Like
it is.
I think
I just try to explain to them, like, with high money comes high expectations. So don't live in like fake world. Reality is you're going to be working a lot, buddy. Like, it's an opportunity to learn. It's great. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it. I just know it's not going to be easy.
But that's where I feel like that honest conversation needs to happen. Yeah. Like, listen,
the recruiter needs to tell you, like, hey, we're going to pay you $90,000 a year. That's great.
And here's the expectation.
80 hours a week.
But 80 hours. But we're also going to train you like nowhere else.
Yeah.
You're going to go work on the coolest shit possible.
Yeah.
You're going to go see the world. Like,
you sound like a Marine Corps recruiter right now to me, buddy.
To go all the way full circle.
Yeah.
My argument is they would be better off
up front
with that message. The construction industry would be better off acknowledging as a whole, hey, we've got some really fucked up problems we need to deal with. Something's wrong. We're not healthy right now. Why aren't we healthy?
So I tell a lot of people that it's because there's a lot of moving around in the construction industry. Yep. People go work for other companies, whether it's manufacturers or in construction. I always try to explain it. I've been fortunate. I worked for a couple different companies. It's not always greener on the other side, and that every company is going to have problems. You just got to pick which one's important to you. And like you were saying earlier, like my safety, legit safety, my well-being, time off, every once in a while, living life a little bit should be one of the top things, because I think now that I've lived through it and I'm grateful that I am here, I wish I could go back and live my life a little bit more, because all the things that I thought that if I would have done, but I continued to stay at work because I felt like they cared about me and they lived for me and all this stuff, like they didn't. I gave away a lot of my life thinking I was more committed to the people I worked for than they were me by far.
Yeah.
And I missed out on things that I could have enjoyed. So I try to explain that to people sometimes, like, if you feel like they're being honest to you and they're going to give you a little bit of life back as well, working expectation is good, but like 3 weeks off a year, or they don't have a PTO policy. Like, if you need to take a break, you take a break. But if you're working hard enough and you've earned it, you deserve it, right? Like that kind of process, that's good.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks a year, working 90-hour weeks, and you're not going to use the 2 weeks because by that time they've got you drained so much, you're not going nowhere.
I do think, though, this is where I think previous generations were more loyal to employers. And that's like the counsel my dad would always give me, years of service was a really big deal. Now I don't think it's as big of a deal. I think, hey, I'm in my 20s. Yeah, I'm just going to go flat out, dude, because I have the energy. I don't have anything else to worry about.
Responsibility hold me back.
I am going to send it. And I know, because that's what I've done in my 20s. I'm like, I know I'm running at an unsustainable long-term pace, but I don't need to worry about that right now. I'm in my 20s. I'm going to go fucking flat out. I'm going to redline this thing. When I have a family, I'm going to want a different program.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I have because I talk about this a lot in my leadership workshop that I do, because I looked at this a lot, right? So if you really let's holistically look at the way the world is now compared to the 70s and 80s. 70s, 80s, the average was 40 hours a work week.
Yeah.
Legit 40 hours. That means you got up early, went to work, came home, spent time with your family. A lot of families, it was one person worked, the other stayed home. And then in the 90s, it transitioned to 50, 60 hours a week. And more parents started both working. And then now in the 2020s, right, The new level of standard is 60 plus hours a week because people work from home now, or they work at the office, come home and work because you feel like that's the necessary way to maintain, right? And then both parents are working, right? So you have now 160-hour work weeks for two people. That's the new standard, right? And anybody who's not being honest with themselves and realizing that is not facing reality, right? So people are working more, and the standard is more now, right? Burnout's prevalent now. People aren't detaching, and they're not being able to live their lives. You hear Jocko, you even hear Nick, you hear several individuals that I like their leadership style talk about detaching, time to yourself, because you're better detached, recharged.
Yeah.
And a lot of these companies now are making that part of their competitive side, is recognizing that people need that. Now, there's also some that just drive you into the ground. Butter up, suck it up, buttercup mentality.
Yeah.
And those people those companies that I feel that are helping, providing the human side of being a leader type of resources are legit. I mean, you guys do a great job of that, I think, here, even at Dirt World or BuildWit. But there's a lot of companies that don't.
But it's okay too, though, to like I was telling you when we were getting coffee, it's like, I knew I was just a number. That's okay.
Yeah, but most people don't.
I was fine with that. Yeah, I was good.
I'm glad you did.
I'm going to be a number.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a hell of a number, man. You're going to pay me in return. It's a trade.
It's a trade.
But then
education and money.
Yeah, there comes a time where this doesn't serve me anymore. I'm going to go somewhere else.
Time to move. Yeah.
That's okay. I think you can go work for somebody for 40 years. Can you do that? Absolutely. But that's been in the past heralded as like success for the company to retain people for 40 years and for the individual to stay at a company for 40 years. Can it still be? Yes. But I don't think that's the formula in a lot of ways. And I think in some ways it can do you a disservice, because I think in your 20s, a certain kind of job can really suit you well, but just not suit you in other parts of your life. Agreed. Now I have young kids. Okay, so then I'm going to go work, instead of a big traveling corporation, I'm going to go work for a local contractor. Am I going to be on the big new LNG plant? No.
That happened to me.
I'm not going to be, but that's fine, because I'll be able to see my daughters when I get home after work every day.
I mean, when I left Kiewit, my career path exploded amazingly.
Yeah.
I had all the knowledge from every job, all the people I met. I mean, I talk about this a lot. I think I try to be more present and think about my career path all the time. And I think about the thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that I've crossed paths with in my career. Mm-hmm. When I went to work in Boston, the culture I left to the culture I went to was night and day. We didn't even wear glasses and hard hats when I got to Suffolk.
Yeah.
My jobs. And we went from boots on the laying gloves on the hand to people not even having it on the job.
Mm-hmm.
So it was crazy for me. So my career path exploded, right?
Yeah.
But it also allowed me to be a dad.
Uh-huh.
So I try to explain to people, when you get into the industry at a younger age, I think it's important to be educated of what's important, what's not important. I think you did a great job of understanding that up front, of knowing that you were a number. And I think parts of every company probably has people who care about people in them.
Yeah.
But in all reality is most huge companies, we're spoken the will.
But that's okay too.
And it's okay.
Like, again,
but know that. Don't take it personal.
I didn't need to go to these I don't need to be family with everybody.
Yeah.
I'm just here to do my fucking job. Okay. I want to enjoy the people I work with.
And that's how most trade professionals think.
But I just want to build stuff.
I don't want to be, I don't need 500,000 likes nowadays, right?
Yeah.
I just want to come to work and go home.
I'm a person. I think all these companies, they think these people want this kind of culture. It's like, no. honestly, I was fine being a cog in the machine, man.
Yeah.
It was great.
Well,
I learned
most
a lot.
people, that's all they want.
Yeah.
They just want a simplified life.
Yeah.
I go to work. It's an even trade. You pay me, and you tell me what your expectations of me are, and I'll meet them.
Mm-hmm.
Some go above and beyond, which is good. That's called leadership. But then there's some that just want to go to work and make a living, man.
Yes. Yeah.
Go home and live their life.
And I think that's where there's this just a lot of nonsensical talk in infrastructure in general too. It's just like, listen, at the end of the day, it's still just building shit.
Yeah.
Okay. We're trying to make it into something it's not. At the end of the day, it's just building shit. Is it going to take hard work? It's always going to take hard work. Is it going to be shitty a lot of time? It's always going to be shitty a lot of time. Like that's just part of it. You need a certain kind of person willing to do that. We need these people that will keep America running. And we're so disconnected from what it takes to keep America running.
Agreed.
We think it should be something else. But it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't need to work that way.
I always tell people, trade professionals are very versatile human beings.
Yes.
They can adapt to any, just like the Marines.
They're incredible.
They can adapt to any scenario they're in most often. They can achieve and excel and be successful if they have the right tools, right setup, right plan. And that's all they want.
Yeah.
They don't want all the other clutter. And I try to explain to people, like specifically young people, you 95% create more clutter for yourself than anything. You got to be confident, know what your plan is. It's okay to change your plan. But like in your case, I try to explain to them, like, learn as much as you can in every opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I was lucky that I learned from Jimmy Claiborne. He's like, listen, there's a difference in safety professionals. You can be an engineer, safety engineer, or you can be a safety professional.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, what's the difference? He goes, safety engineer is all black and white. Safety professionals out in the field, in the trenches.
Yeah.
Right? And when he doesn't know something, or that person doesn't know something, they educate themselves.
Construction is gray.
That's it.
It's not black and white.
It's not black and white.
It will never be black and white.
There's so much gray that they pay someone like me to manage the gray.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a safety professional does.
Yeah.
Because it's financial.
Yeah.
Like, I explain to people all the time that in my career at Canistro, we went from paying out $1.5 million a year in workman comp to $55,000 after the fifth year.
Mm-hmm.
$55,000 payout. Fifth year I was there from $1.5 million.
Yeah.
You don't think my job's about money?
Yeah. But it's in everybody's best interest, because if we're paying out less, that means our people are not getting injured first and foremost, so they're able to care for their families. Two, now we have more money to invest across the board, make the business better,
grow.
And I know a lot of you people are jaded because you've been taken advantage of by employers left and right, but ideally in a situation like that, that's not how it is. This is money that we don't have to spend over here that we can now put over here to better care for everybody.
Exactly what I specifically been, the younger crowd coming up, been trying to educate them on that side. Because then they understand the importance of them being confident and making smart decisions when they're in the work environment. It's not just about them, and not just about the company. It's a partnership. Like if they don't get hurt because they're smart enough to say, "Hey, this ain't safe," that could change the projectile of this organization having worked for them for 10 years. Because a few bad incidents could keep that company from being hired.
For a long time, man.
A long time.
Yeah.
I mean,
that goes on your report card.
You explain that importance of every incident to these individuals. And if they want a good paying job that's a safe place that gives them the right stuff to work, they're going to be smart enough to say, "Hey, Mr. Foreman, I know you're having a rough time right now and you're stressed because I understand that you're running the job and you're managing the GC and you're going through divorce, whatever it might be, because they're human beings. That's the human side of leadership."
Yeah.
It's good to remind them, like, "Yeah, hey, man, this ain't safe." "Oh, kid, you're right." Or they might yell at them, but they know, right? And then that kid can say, "Hey, I'm not doing this."
Yeah. Yeah, worst case scenario. Like, I think you can approach it in a constructive way.
That's important.
I just
Communication.
Yeah, I don't want to get injured here. You don't want me to get injured.
You don't want me to. I tell them, you don't want me to get hurt, man.
Yeah, and so, hey, this doesn't look right.
It's going to be worse for you than it is me.
And do you mind double checking this before we do this?
Yeah, that's so important.
You don't have to be like, no, I'm not doing it because I have stop work authority. And I just like, that's going to go over like
don't
a
even
lead
say that word, man.
Yeah, don't say that.
I don't want to get hurt for me, but also for you because it's
for you too.
Get us all in trouble.
We're in this together, man.
So that's a good culture, man.
And then if you're still told to go kick rocks, go to another company.
And they will.
There's enough great companies out there. Yeah. Go find that great company.
That's what I love about this new generation coming up. They're not afraid. Most of them aren't afraid to stick up for themselves.
Yeah. Which is a double-edged sword.
It is, but from a safety side, I'd rather them say something than not.
Sure.
Because back in my day, you almost had to fight your way out of a bad situation.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you were able to come down and do this.
I'm glad to be here. It's awesome.
It's nice to have a realistic conversation about safety. These conversations, I have them all the time in private settings. And then you see the corporate documents and you're like, oh, wait a minute. What happened? How many lawyers did you have write this one?
And I get it, man. So listen,
I get it. I get it.
We talk all the time about like even the helmets. I see both sides of it, and I understand if you're on a corporate side and you're the person paying out the $80 million lawsuit because unfortunately the person fell and has a TBI and they're never going to work again or be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So they're paying $80 million. The insurance company wish they would have died because it would have been cheaper.
Sure. And most of the $80 million is not going to the injured party.
No, it's 40% is going to a scumbag attorney that doesn't even know the last name.
At least.
I get it, man. Yeah. It sucks. And that's why I live in the world of authenticity and try to be you be honest. But the most important part to me in culturally, and whether it's safety or even a company program, is just do the right thing.
Yeah.
If you can, and that's what's led to my success. I mean, if you call my career success in safety, 30 years, never had a person die on my jobs, which that's how I know that I did okay. And I've only terminated 2 people my entire career. And I've had hundreds of thousands of people work for me. I believe in having a conversation, retraining, understanding, because I could, just like Hewitt, I could have sent everybody home.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I had conversations because there's humans, right? But if you do that, I think it's important because whether you're in safety or even construction, you got to always remember, like, we're human beings. We're not perfect. There's nobody perfect in this world. And 95% of the time, it's something's going on with them, or maybe we didn't do the right. Like, that's the biggest lesson learned I learned from Kiewit was every injury was preventable was the mindset, right? Yeah. But they'd always bring it up like, what did you not do? And I always took it defensively. But most of the time, what you'd find out is probably could have trained this person a little better.
Yeah.
Or I could have said something a little different.
I read a book and it was saying like, it was remarkable how often the problem was me.
Yes.
And it's like,
Jocko talks about it a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about Jocko a lot. Even Nick talks about it a lot. The importance of self-evaluation. Because we're human beings.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the first muster I ever went to with Jocko Willington. It was 2018. And that was the lesson I took from that was, am I really, the stuff I'm saying to people, are they hearing it how I mean it? Or are they hearing it how they perceive it? And it wasn't, I was beating myself up. It was understanding that everyone hears things differently. Everyone, like, you may call a Libera 2250 a 2250. And somebody else might call it just 2250. We all have different lingo.
Yeah.
We have different understanding. Understanding that is important because it really helped me redefine how I communicated with people.
Yeah.
So that's the important side of safety that I try to explain to people is we talked about OSHA 10 and 30 hour, like how ineffective it is. Most of the time it's because the person giving it's not really saying giving effective information, whether it's real life incidents or explaining it to the person on their terms.
Yeah.
And that's back to younger people, even people in the industry. People want to learn on their terms. It can't be on your terms.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to lead people, you got to make sure they take the information. And it can wear you out. Don't get me wrong. You have to communicate with them on their terms.
Yeah.
If you want them to learn.
Yeah.
The end result is all that should matter to you. And that's no death.
Yep.
That's all I ever cared about. And so even when I went to Canistero, I was like, 55 to 40 people like stuff on paper. The 30 people want you to text them. The 30 to 25-year-olds want you to email. So you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
But it's important.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah, man. I could talk to you all day, man.
Yeah,
it's the way it goes.
This topic I like talking about too. But we will see you next week in Texas.
Yeah. I'm grateful for what you're doing for leadership in the industry, Aaron.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.